G'day, ZiggyD here, and welcome to my first look at and early analysis of the new skill in patch 1.0.2, Storm Call. Yeah, this skill looks pretty awesome. I've had a bit of a play around with it now, tested a few of the mechanics, and can give you guys a bit of a summary of how it works and some of the things you might be able to do with it to create some interesting builds. I am planning on making a build for this myself, and I was originally planning on self-casting, but I might end up going with totems. We'll see, but you guys will be able to see that in later videos. But let's take a look at the actual skill itself. So the basics are you paint a target on the ground, and then 1.5 seconds later, the lightning strike goes off. Kind of this orbital strike thing going on there with a laser painting of targets. Now, if you paint multiple targets, so we'll paint 3 there, when the first one goes off, it triggers the other 2 in sequence, essentially, so very short duration delay between them. Now, when this skill was first announced, I wasn't quite sure whether these would go off simultaneously or one after each other, and this is actually pretty important when you think about something like shock stacks. If they all count as one hit, then you only get one shock stack, but if they count as multiple hits, then you get multiple shock stacks, and that is indeed the case. So when we paint 3 that way, you'll see it goes bam, 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 really quickly there. Now, if I go ahead and just link faster casting to this for now, we can actually see that if I can paint a ton of targets down, they'll all get triggered by this. So let's paint just as many as I can. I can do about 7 before they go off there. Now, if I just cast one, wait for it to land, cast one, wait for it to land, the duration is going to be 1.5 seconds between each one. So I actually think cast speed is pretty important for this skill, because getting as many down of those as possible and then having them all trigger at the same time is going to be a lot more efficient, I think. So I think any build I create is going to be centered around having a lot of cast speed for this build, for this skill there. Not to mention, it's pretty awesome doing that. Now, let's talk about some of the other basics of the skill before we talk about other ways you can modify it. So 1% quality gives 4% critical strike chance, and that's actually really high. The base skill itself is only 4% crit strike chance, which isn't super high, but this extra way of increasing it there, so 40% at 10% quality and 80% increase crit strike chance at 20 quality there is a big deal. So that's, if you want to go sort of a crit shock stacking build with this, it definitely has a lot of potential to be good for that, and maybe with totems or something like that to deal with any sort of reflect issues you might have. Leveling up the skill itself gives increased lightning damage, pretty much the same as any skill. Now, this is available from the Breaking Some Eggs quest for, I believe it's the Templar, Witch, and Shadow, so each of those classes can get it there. So it's a very easy skill to sort of just mule if you want to get it for any class. Now, that pretty much covers the basics. You level it up to 20 to get max damage, and you get some crit strike chance for that. The base duration doesn't change depending on the actual gem itself. You can only change that with support. So let's actually take a look at that now. I have here increased duration and reduced duration. We'll give each one of these guys a go. Let's go ahead and put on increased duration, and let's put faster casting on there as well, just for the hell of it. Actually, we'll stick with the base for now. So let's just see. Without increased duration, we can go 1, 2, 3, 4, I think I can get off just before that goes with my current cast speed. Now, I have a little bit of cast speed on this build, so that's not just the base. You might be able to get 2 or 3 off on a new character. But let's put this in here, increased duration, which increases just at level 1, 50% increased skill effect duration. Takes the base duration up from 1.5 to 2.25. So what this means is, I'm now able to get about 5 or 6 of these off before it actually goes off. So that means you can paint more targets before the actual strike happens, and obviously with fast casting, I should be able to get an obscene amount of targets painted before it actually goes off, and some pretty interesting devastation happening there. But I don't actually know if this is worth doing at all. I don't really see any major benefit to this other than the fact that you can do it. I don't know if it's worth a skill slot, support slot to actually do something like that. And I kind of feel the same way about reduced duration. With reduced duration, you can pretty much have it go off, you know, almost immediately. This is a level 18 reduced duration. Level 20, you're getting, you know, a pretty fast cast, so down from 1.5 to 0.87, so less than a second before it goes off. A short delay, kind of like Rain of Arrows with increased projectile speed. So you could potentially do that and have, like, each one kind of go off a bit slower. I guess if you had low cast speed, this could have some potential. But again, I don't see any significant benefit to this. Like, what's the difference between me having them go off like this versus me having them go off like this? I don't see any really big difference between this. There's just a bigger delay between volleys. I feel like the base duration is going to be fine, and you just work around that with your cast speed and depending on how you want to play the skill, and just work around that base duration. So don't see any big deals with that. Now the skill itself is lightning, spell, AoE, and duration, so it can be modified by any of that. We've seen duration. Let's take a look at AoE. So we'll take off faster casting for now, and we can look at increased area of effect. Obviously, it's going to increase the area of effect pretty dramatically there, and concentrated effect, same deal, reducing the AoE to a pretty small kind of pinpoint there, single target, but increasing the damage by quite a bit. Obviously, I think the way to go to really increase the damage on this skill is going to be to use concentrated effect, along with increased AoE passives from the tree to kind of balance it out. So you kind of get back to square one, but you get that massive damage buff. Now, this is only a level 2 skill, and I'm all the way in Fell's Shrine in normal, with some spell damage, and able to take down this rare even, so it seems to work pretty well. And concentrated effect is a powerful buff there. So let's just finish killing this guy off so he doesn't wail on me constantly while I'm trying to demonstrate things. Okay, so that's the increasing and decreasing of the AoE and the ways you can modify that. Obviously, any passives, like if we go up into here, Amplify, or over here are going to work, and obviously any lightning damage modifiers or elemental damage modifiers like Elemental Dominion are going to work on that as well. So anything like that that affect those tags will affect that just fine. Where did my actual skill go? There we go. Next up, we have obviously spell damage. Anything spell damage can modify it, and as I said, anything lightning damage. Now, I have tested this on a trap, and I think it's terrible. I don't think traps or mines are the way to go with this. You can do it, and obviously a mine, you know, usually increases the damage of a skill by quite a bit, as does trap, has a damage modifier on it as well. But this is what happens when you do it with traps. It triggers, it paints one target once it triggers. Super ineffective way of doing it, I feel. Like, sure, you get more damage, but you're casting so few of the spell that I think you're really losing one of the powerful effects of this skill, and that's that you can have a heap of them go off at once. So that's going to be the same deal for mine. I don't have a mine to demonstrate, but once you trigger the mine, it's going to paint a target on the nearest mob. On the other hand, I do think spell totems are pretty insane with this, and as I said, I was originally planning on not doing this as a spell totem build, but I'm starting to reconsider that because this works pretty fantastically, I must admit, and having them auto-cast like that and going dual totem and having that happen is pretty insane. We can go ahead and even, maybe I can switch these guys around and we can link cast speed to that as well. Have our totems have a lot of extra cast speed, and obviously modify it in all the same ways we were before. And you can imagine two of these totems going off, kind of, they pick their targets and just paint where that target is. Sometimes they're going to miss against fast-moving targets, but against targets like this, should be pretty effective. And if you have some AoE, maybe the missing won't be such an issue. But the drawback, obviously, of these totems is they are always going to paint exactly where the mob is. So if you're kind of want to lead a target that's moving around a bit, then you might want to be able to self-cast to be able to do that. So say if something's moving along, you might want to cast in front of them. However, I think probably the easiest way to use this spell in the end is going to be pretty much standing on top of mobs and casting them like this, so that you're getting all of them stacking up and a lot of shock stacks happening. Now, another plan is obviously to either spec crit or shock chance, so like conductivity or something like that, or added lightning damage quality, and then have elemental proliferation, which works really, really well with this spell. Because they do trigger sequentially, like one after each other, you can get 3 shock stacks very quickly, and of course proliferate those to other enemies in nearby vicinity. So let's try and test this. I'm not at all spec'd with shock on this, but if I can try and get a shock stack happening on this guy, not quite. Let's try again. If I can get a shock stack to trigger on someone, it should proliferate to the other guys there. As I said, I'm not spec shock at all in this build, but we'll see if we can get something to happen. There we go, there's one shock stack. Oh, there we go, we've got a proliferated shock stack there. Now, I'm pretty sure that as long as we get, 3 shock stacks in that burst there, they're going to proliferate all 3. They should, because it's, happening one after each other, we should be getting plenty of shock stacks happening there. So I think that just about covers it. I think this spell has a lot of potential. It's going to be very popular on totems, and I think it has some potential for self-casting. It's an interesting sort of one to play around with. The delay means that it's an interesting sort of playstyle to adapt to. But I think it's going to be very powerful. I think it's going to be very popular, and I'm planning on having a lot of fun with it. So anyway, that's it for now. I'm ZiggyD, and thanks for watching.